And I think we should be live. Hi, everyone. This is For the Love of Comics coming at you in another one of our Sunday live streams. I'm hoping that the audio and the video is working properly. There have been a couple of mishaps, and sometimes it's real smooth. I'm hoping this is a smooth one. Good to see people in the chat already. I'll chat with all of you in just real quick. I just wanted to make a note. Well, first of all, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are and whenever it is that you're watching this. Welcome to the live stream. I love the chats of these live streams. So I do want to note for everyone that if the chat is on for you, make sure you have it turned to live chat instead of top chat. For some reason, the top chat leaves out some of these messages, and I was always confused when I wanted to go back to some questions. So if you can see that option, switch it to live chat, and you should be able to see all messages. Ashwita is in the chat as well, moderating if such a thing is required, as I always say. Good to know the audio and video is working well. Good evening from Greece. Good evening from California. Good morning from California. Great to see everyone here. We've got Literature in Pictures, Colin Taylor, M, Edward 18517, Aris Kotsis, Ashwita, and good to see all of you. So, welcome. This is going to be a very quick live stream by my standards. I don't think this is going to take even an hour, but I just did want to have the opportunity to chat with people live and have a longer and more meandering, of course, approach to what I made a video on last Sunday. So last Sunday, I posted a video talking about the future of this channel, what I am planning, changes in my life, and it was a longish video, but it was very, very packaged. And so I thought this would be a looser thing based on questions that I've already gotten, based on comments that I've already gotten, as well as things that people may want to ask in the chat. The main thing, of course, was the creation of the For the Love of Comics Patreon and YouTube channel membership, something that this is the first time we're doing this. We've been on, I've been making videos for about 5.5 years, but due to the changed nature of my professional status, there is something that I want to do with this channel, and I don't want it to fall by the wayside because I'm concerned about certain things like making money and having a job and focusing on that in such a way that the channel has to be ignored for 6 months or maybe forever. So rather than do that, I wanted to clarify, as I did in my video, that I'm not thinking about YouTube as what I do now that I no longer work at the place that I had for the last 19 years. I'm not thinking about this as my career and as my money earner. There are other plans that, again, we can talk about. There are things that are in my head and things that we have been discussing on as far as those options are concerned. But I didn't want the channel to be ignored. And so I'm looking at the Patreon and the memberships as a way of supporting this channel independently by itself. There is a core group of people who are supporting the channel, and that's why I will be making videos. And that's for whom, or not only for them, but thanks to them, I will be continuing to do the things that I've been doing, as well as trying new things and constantly trying to improve things. And I think the next couple of videos that you see might be, I'm hoping, indicative of that, because a little bit about my process, such as it is, I make videos in a very concentrated burst of time and effort over the weekends, usually starting at Friday night after I've finished work. Sometimes I'm really tired, so it doesn't start until Saturday. And then I have to shoot the thing, which is usually not scripted. So I ramble and I have multiple takes and end up with a lot of footage. Then I have to have a marathon editing session to get something meaningful out of it. For every 10 minutes of video I put out there, there's probably about 45 or 50 minutes of footage, mainly ums and ahs and me restarting things. So the editing is quite a laborious process. And then I have to try to squeeze in any kind of enhancements to that very bare bones me talking into the camera, essentially like this for about 10 minutes, by putting in images, by maybe shooting B-roll, which needs another camera set up, and all of this in order to get the video out by Sunday night India time. So there's very little sleep on Saturday. It's just me sitting in the chair for 2 days. And what that does, and this is obviously my own thing, but what that does is it squeezes things in such a way that I always end up with compromises. And the video that I will be putting out after this live stream ends today is the first video in a long time that I've gotten to work on over a period of 4 days. Now, it's probably the same amount of editing, but the fact that I could do it in more manageable pieces over 4 days allowed me to sort of scratch every itch I had. And it's something that I'm very happy about. So already I take this as an indicator that this is really the way to do it. I mean, of course, the really efficient way to do it would be to shoot multiple videos at the same time and edit them in batches and things like that, which is something I've never been able to get to because I always end up making a particular type of video with a lot of arrangement for that particular video. It's not something that I repeat. So even the look and feel and sound sometimes is different on a video by video basis. So that's the kind of way that I work and I like to work. So having multiple days in smaller pockets of time is less exhausting, but it allows me to be more productive and more creative. At least that's the indication from the very first video that I made this way. So after this stream is over, if you check that out, I'd love to know what you think about the 1.5 approach to editing that we have. Good evening to the Grey Jedi, Elderwood, Shashank. Good to see you, Idle Animator. It's always crazy when you have a channel and look back to see how long you've been on YouTube. Yes, I mean, I say 5.5 years, but it isn't like I've been putting a video out every week for 5.5 years. There have been, for various reasons, pockets and gaps, and I'm sure those kind of things will exist from time to time. I do want to be more regular when I can. At the same time, I don't want to make it something that becomes like homework and becomes like a lot of drudgery just in order to do it. So I've got to find that balance. I do think that not exhausting myself over a 24-hour period is a good start. I think it'll be less strenuous and therefore more sustainable. Not to mention the sort of creative aspect of it that I was just talking about. Comics Dude, hello from Arunachal Pradesh. Good to see you here. I think I have a chat window open on another screen as well, but yes, I can chat over here. Just making sure my keyboard works, etc. So some questions, oh, there we go. So some questions that I have gotten already have been about the Patreon, and just first of all, there haven't been as many questions as I thought there would. I thought people would want to know more. Comics Dude says, read more manga. Yes, I absolutely plan on it. I give the impression that I don't read any manga. Is that true? I mean, I do read, I mean, I have videos on Lone Wolf and Cub, and I've talked about Bride's Story, and my first videos on this channel were on Akira, but I suppose manga reading for a lot of people is a lot more constant, and I mean, I know a lot of people who read only manga, so I think in comparison to them, I will always suffer in comparison. Comic Binge, good to see you. I'm glad you enjoy the live streams. I enjoy the live streams as well. They're a lot more relaxed and a lot less stress than editing videos. However, I don't think I'm very good unscripted, as the editing of my videos also proves to me. So it's always a little nerve-wracking as a high wire act. But one of the things that I do want to do more of is I want to do more collaborations with other channels. And over the years, I've been fortunate enough to be invited to many channels, and on, not just to submit a piece of edited video, but to join in live conversations. And I've enjoyed them thoroughly and always wanted to do more, irrespective of time zone and things like that. But I've never hosted a live stream in which I invite people to come and chat with me, other people who have YouTube channels, or even bloggers or Instagram. There are so many different ways people are sharing their love for comics, and it's something that I would love to host, but it's so chaotic most of the time, and I'm never quite sure if I've gotten it right just at my end, that thinking about managing two or three other people is frankly intimidating. On the other hand, I wouldn't have to constantly talk if there were other people, and I think that would give me a good break and up the quality of my conversation as well. So there's definitely something over there that I want to learn about. However, I think I'll have to get Streamlabs, etc. So I'm going to consult with people who do it and figure out the best way to do that. Did I do a pick for near mint condition? Yes, I did. Actually, 2 years now. I did one for my favorite reads of 2022, and then I did again another piece for 2023. But Omar was also very kind to invite me on for a live stream. So there's a conversation that we had, which was fantastic. I loved it. I'd love to have more conversations with near mid condition. That live stream was something I really enjoyed. And then I can see people here in the chat with whom I've been on live streams. So I have these on my channel page. I think the subsection on my videos page is called, or it's the playlists page, FTLOC on other channels. So I think I have listed over there almost every time I've appeared on someone else's channel. If you are someone I've appeared with and have it isn't there, let me know and I'll add it. I'll add it to the list. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the chats. Good to see you, Arindam. Good to see the Grey Jedi. Nice, Scotty Young. Yes, I do believe this is Scotty Young. It isn't signed. And I don't know because this is from a supermarket, a US supermarket. So I hope he gets residuals or something, although I wouldn't be surprised if the creators don't see any of it. Although Scotty Young he should have the muscle, I think, to be able to get something. Would you have Omar on as a guest? Yes, absolutely. Once I know what I'm doing, I would love to have other YouTubers and comics commentators on as guests. And I would also love to have some comics creators. I've had, again, the opportunity to have a couple of conversations. I did an Instagram live conversation around the Alcazar with Simon Lemouret and the translator. Yes, so those are the kind of things that I would love to do more of and have on the channel. Again, these are things that take some effort to set up. It's something. It's not something that's easily doable on a regular basis, sort of on the fly. So I've got to become a lot better about planning. I've got to think about my calendar, etc. Hello from Brazil. I have Kolkata Book Nerds saying, thank you, that's very kind. Dabble into BookTube. Fantastic. I will check that out. I'm always looking for new channels and people who are doing their own thing on YouTube. I mean, I'm a little bit of a lurker. Sometimes I get a little self-conscious leaving comments, but I will check out videos if you send me links. T-shirt revenue was the reason McFarlane broke away from. Yes, that's what I thought. That's why I thought that by now they would have learned something. Was my guess around that, I think. Well, so what was I talking about? Yes, so since I've quit my job, there are a couple of different things I'm exploring, and I think I'll make a little bit of an announcement over here that my wife Ashwita and I have decided to start a publishing company together. It's not like a big publishing company or anything like that. It's going to be out of our living rooms for right now. What we really want to do is develop good material that books that we would like to see, books that we think that there's a real gap in the market for, because there's a certain standard of writing and art. And so by now, I think you can guess is that we are thinking about publishing comics. There's also this aspect of illustrated books and children's books, young readers' books. There are a couple of different options that we are exploring, but comics is definitely first and foremost on our minds. We do have publishing experience, both of us. It's mainly in the editorial, the development, and the links that it has to marketing. Those are the things that we are good at, that we kind of know a little bit about. Production is something that is, I'd say, half-half. I'm familiar enough with the basics of production, and what I bring to the table is a little bit, a little bit of the financial understanding. I mean, I've been doing it as a job for the last 19 years, so a little bit of learning has happened in that period of time. So we just feel like there is a real connection between the editorial and the sort of business side of things that is usually overlooked. Sometimes things are extremely narrowly focused on without the bigger picture, and it can be myopic in either direction. I've seen obsession with sales and distribution at a level of disregarding the quality of the work, and I've seen obsession with the work itself disregard any common business sense. Now, the tightrope act, I think, usually tends to go towards the commercial and ignore the quality, which is kind of a vague word to use, but it's tough to try to figure out a better word. So what we want to do is we want to sort of throw our hat into the ring, starting obviously very, very small, and see by putting our money where our mouth is, if we can prove the theories that we have in our head. This will be focused on comics, as I was saying, and it will be focused on print from what we've been talking about so far, although the e-book version is something that we would also want to develop, but the print is a primary thing. However, given our inexperience, we are also going to make sure that we don't bite off more than we can chew. What we will work with are authors and artists, and we will work with developing work, or at least this is the plan, and then figure the rest of the stuff out together collaboratively. We know many artists and writers whose frustrations with either self-publishing or corporate publishing have been well expressed and documented, and there's a real conversation-based approach, I think, that's being ignored. That's our thought process anyway. We know what we like to read. We are good readers, if there is such a thing. We feel that our skills can be used to help, and we are writers ourselves. So one of the questions I had been asked over on the Patreon, or more about the Patreon soon, but over on the Patreon group, someone asked if I'd ever been interested in writing a comic. And yes, the answer is yes, absolutely. What I want to do is I want to collaborate with like-minded people. I want to work with people in developing their work and in developing my work. It's all available, and that's sort of the buzzy excitement that we are in right now. The channel is also going to be part of that whole pie. It's a form of publishing. It's a way of putting things out there again that we would like to see, and there's nothing really that different about all of these things that we're talking about. So this is where we've gotten to right now. We'll be going through some legal paperwork, etc., in the upcoming weeks, but we're also going to be talking to everyone and anyone who's interested in this and in working together. And we already have a couple of very interesting conversations going on. So as I was saying, because of our inexperience, we are also going to rely on experienced publishers, artists, and writers, and do a fair amount of co-publishing together, in which we also get to learn while working with and helping people by using our skills and developing them. So that's sort of the grand plan. That's one of the big things that we are thinking of, and that's something that we're going to be updating people on. So when I was talking about the Patreon, and here's where we can talk about the Patreon, but let me Let me check the chats. Sounds amazing. Yes, thank you. It is exciting. I'm glad to see all of this excited reaction over here. Um, do I know what the name of the company will be? Not yet. um, I initially thought For the Love of Comics, and that's what we were going with. But we've been advised that maybe it's a little clunky, maybe it doesn't roll off the tongue as far as a publishing company or an imprint is concerned. I think it works fine for a YouTube channel or something like that. But it's so we'll take some more things under advisement. But there are a couple of things we're throwing around, but we'll also have to check if something is taken, if something is already registered. So there's a number of things like that that we'll have to look into. Thank you. I have a comment here. Dalmaticus says, love to see you in a live stream with Omnidog and Omnicat. That you three together in a live stream would be good. Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of Omnidog's Vault, I think, and I have seen a couple of live streams, and it looks like a lot of fun. But they have fantastic chemistry. But I'd love to invite people over and sort of introduce myself to them and introduce them to maybe new viewers who haven't seen them. And it's this kind of recommendation and advice that I'll definitely be looking for. Edward says that he's been looking to get into publishing and thinking of doing it independently. Yes, there's certainly, well, I mean, we can talk about self-publishing. We can talk about publishing. As I said, everything's fair game. I do think that there are certain, I mean, it's very cliche, but there are pros and cons to independent publishing and the more corporate, formal publishing. There are small indie publishers also. So there's an entire spectrum. And of course, there are strengths and weaknesses. I think the issue that a lot of people find is that they don't get enough of the strengths when they take a certain decision. And the idea of self-publishing is very intimidating for people. However, there are a lot of vanity publishers and presses that will just for an exorbitant amount of money sort of give you what you're looking for. But what you're looking for may not be very well baked. I think the idea of editorial development is the important thing. As far as, of course, it plays to our strengths and it's what we have experience in, so we would obviously lean on that. But that's also, I think, the real gap that we see. We see the gap of editorial development where authors and artists don't get the right kinds of input. They don't get the right kind of creative back and forth that development editorial brings. And sometimes they try to get it through anecdote and having friends read it. And those things have a, they're obviously helpful, but they have a limited usefulness, I think, because either someone has got to take a lot of time to do this, and you may not always find someone who is able to take that kind of concentrated approach, or they might be worried about hurting your feelings. They may not be a relative of mine may not be the target audience for the work. Those are a kind of things that I think through no fault of people, interfere with the process of developing something that has a real shot. And of course, sales and distribution and marketing itself is a big challenge as well. So sometimes I think people want to go for big publishers because that means the big publishers will have that distribution reach. They will have that marketing push. But very often people end up complaining about the non-availability of their work and no marketing was done. So it's really interesting to me to say that, is it working or is it not working? And if it wasn't working, then how would we still have, there are certain kinds of decisions that are made based on a number of different factors that could be, I don't want to get into right and wrong, but they could be different decisions that could also have successful results. And that's, I think, the type of thing we want to try, is something that is using the logic and the common sense that we know a business needs to run, but also sort of aligning towards the creative and the aesthetically appealing side of it first and foremost, and bringing that business sense to that, rather than having it be the other way around, in which you just dictate what the content is going to be because of a business analysis first and foremost. I don't know if that makes sense. It does to me in my head. Um, don't limit yourself to all age group. Include adult only comic as well. Yes, I think. Again, there are a number of different things that we're thinking about, and something that we want to collaborate with existing publishers on is something like comics for grown-ups, comics as a medium to tell all kinds of stories. And so we have the publishing house that we want to start, and then we have things that we want to do with other independent publishers and small presses. We want to collaborate with them, and therefore we want to, as you say, not shut anything out as a possibility. Everything is open, everything is fair game. The most important thing is to publish, is to write, develop, publish good comics, irrespective of genre, irrespective of, well, any of those other things. Is that the story and being a good comic comes first and foremost, and helping people develop that, I think, is what we think a publisher should be doing, an editorial team should be doing. His extreme comics taken. Well, I don't know how extreme how appropriate is extreme for the love of comics. I think you can think of many things when you think of this channel. Extreme, especially with that many X's, is probably not going to be. Who's writing? Who's drawing? Well, that's the question. We have things that we're writing and want to write ourselves. We want to find writers and artists and help them develop their work and collaborate with them. And right now, we're just reaching out to people that we know, seeing if they're interested, getting advice from people. So it's very much in that conversational stage, but it's absolutely, Ananda, as you say, it's very exciting and very buzzy. It's something that we want to definitely develop and work on with a level of detail that I think we're just beginning to scratch. And finding the right collaborators and finding the right people is going to be a very big part of that. So I think there will be sort of more formal notices and open calls and closed calls and things like that. As I said, we will definitely be keeping everyone here updated. There will be, there are videos and community posts, the Instagram page, etc. And of course, the Patreon and the YouTube members have the they have the ability to see behind the scenes stuff. We will be posting all kinds of not formal big videos necessarily, but just even I should learn how to shoot stuff on a phone, which is a funny thing to say, but I think a phone is a camera that you always have in your hands. It's always, I'm too fussy and finicky, and I should get over that. And if I use a phone more often, I'll be able to make shorts. I'll be able to, not YouTube shorts, but I'll be able to make short videos, things like that. But over there, not only would I think we'd be talking about the behind the scenes of For the Love of Comics, of shooting, of editing, of putting things together, whatever people are interested in, but maybe also behind the scenes of the publishing or of the commissioning or of the development of something. I'm not sure. We haven't completely baked that, but it's all possible. A good case study for an indie publisher that has fairly good reach worldwide is Piao Comics, maybe Colorama too. It's small runs, but they get some traction. Interesting. I'll have to look into Piao and Colorama. Colorama sounds familiar. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anything from Piao Comics, but I'll definitely be making note of that. Arindam Seb's food-related comics would be great. Absolutely. I think food is, well, I do have an idea for a top 5 comics about food, or maybe even a top 10. I don't know if it's going to be about food or the top 10 food comics, and how one defines food comics will probably take up the first 20 minutes of the video. But absolutely, I think travel, history, crime, horror, sci-fi and fantasy, autobiography, journalism. We know that the comics as a medium is capable of telling all kinds of stories and expressing all kinds of voices. So there really is no reason why anything, we're probably not going to be publishing pornography, but outside of that, I would say everything is fair game. Yes, a lot of appreciation on the idea of food comics. Nihal, good to see you here. Uh, Self-published comics indeed. Do members get an FTLOC calendar? Interesting, interesting. I Off my shelves is obviously far more integrated into these, branding opportunities, synergies, etc. I will be consulting with you. Did you mean like a swimsuit calendar, or did you just mean a calendar of events of where they're leading up to? I'll need to unpack this a little bit more. Um, I looked into the publishing industry, Panels with Pete says, when I lost my job at the start of COVID, but with a baby on the way, it wasn't the right time to take that leap. Yeah, completely understandable. I'd be interested in knowing what you found out. Again, I have been working in publishing for the last 19 years. Ashwita has also been professionally in publishing for many years, but my experience has been at a much larger scale, both in terms of print runs and products, and it's very different and very far away from the sort of niche independent publishing we're thinking about today. However, I do think that there are some logical, commonsensical things that just sort of go across the board. So that is what I think we're going to rely on, is that this experience still counts for something, because when it comes to numbers, when it comes to the profit, when it comes to the various types of costs, etc., it's all the same. I mean, the details will differ, but the system and the way of calculating things will remain the same. So instead of just parroting jargon or buzzwords, what we want to do is we want to get to that core truth of the logic of the decision making. And that's why that collaborative approach with the writers or with the artists is going to be fundamental, is going to be key. It's not, here is my thing that's already finished. For example, what we would want to invite is, we would invite pitches. We would want to start at a very early stage, because it's not the inked pages that are being submitted that can be developed. I mean, no one wants to change those things, and it's already too far baked and too far solidified, which is not to say that you can't have good stuff come to you directly, but especially when thinking about a market like India, and thinking about, there is a need for more work to be done, for more seriousness to be taken as far as the approach of developing and publishing comics. Not something that one person does, by locking themselves away from everyone else in isolation. It's not necessarily the way that learning and evolution will happen fast. It's very labor intensive, and it's very isolated, and sort of removing those barriers, or removing those walls, is going to be the sort of theoretical breakthrough, at least, yeah, theoretical. More comics, exactly. We will need to think about how we want to do things, as far as writers who don't have artists to collaborate with, or artists who don't have writers to collaborate with. I think putting people together is one of the easiest things one can do, and developing with them together something is one approach. However, that's not the only approach. As I said, since we're writers, or at least I'd like to think that I want to be a writer. Ashwata is actually a published writer, new book coming out very soon. We've got that ability to help people with writing as well. So it's again, it's a mixture of things. We will be looking for people, we will be looking for ideas, we will be inviting pitches, and we'll be doing this in a variety of forums. There'll be things that we will be publishing as the company that we want to be. We will also be looking at things that we are collaborating with other people on. So there'll be, I think, plenty of opportunities, particularly, I would say, for people in India. Outside of India is always a possibility. When it comes to the logistics of the physical books being available in another country, that's where the costs and that's where the things become very hard to manage. And that might be one of those second level or third stage kind of things to explore if things work out. I mean, it could all just sort of go up in flames. Who knows? This is me being, I'm trying not to jinx it, although that's superstitious, and I'm against superstition, except when it comes to jinxing my plans. What scale is the Indian market for comics? That's a great question. And I think the answer is up in the air. I don't think anyone really knows. What I will say, though, is India has a huge population. And I think from the point of view of demographics, there is no reason why it shouldn't be a good market for comics. But that could try, this is a larger question, is that why aren't comics more popular than they are? Why aren't they as popular as prose, or even more popular than prose? Because in some ways it's more accessible. But we know the reasons why. We know about the labor intensiveness and how it's viewed by people. So there are a lot of barriers that are cost oriented as well as psychological barriers. It's for kids, it's puerile, or it's juvenile. So it's difficult to say what the market potential is. At a very basic level, if we want to think about it without trying to, rule the world, you should still be able to seed and create a market by creating good books. I think people keep saying, it's a chicken and egg. Do you do books to have readers, or do you need readers to do books? And while my snarky response is always, the answer is the egg came first, I understand completely what they mean. So it is a little circular. Our goals will be to say, well, if we're looking at the English language, that's a niche within, comics are already a niche. Well, let's start with the fact that reading is a niche activity. Reading for pleasure, reading what has not been assigned to you, or reading fiction, reading creative nonfiction, that itself is niche. Now, within that, reading physical things is another smaller niche. Reading comics is a much smaller niche. Now, you might even be in comics and then it might be fragmented further. For example, some people may only read superhero comics. So when they think about comics, they only think about Marvel or DC. Some people might extend it to the sci-fi, fantasy genres in publishers like Dark Horse and Image. And then you've got the indie and further, and then the realistic. So it becomes so niche that my question really is, surely there's more than zero. And if you make good books, you will develop a market. So you will capture the people who are looking for something interesting. I do know that a lot of people in India read American comics and European comics, and manga is huge. Manga is becoming more and more popular every day. If you go into a comic, there's no such thing comic. If you go to a bookstore, the comic section will probably be mainly manga. You can see this in school libraries, and it's very popular. So while a lot of people say, oh, they only like to read manga, I do think of that as a very positive thing. It's like the medium of comics is not a barrier. Black and white comics is not a barrier. That's what it seems to prove to me. So I'll sort of take that glass half full approach to say that whatever we see as far as book sales, etc., are concerned, could lead to pessimism. But if you are starting from the bottom, and if you're not trying to be this multi-million-dollar valuation startup with angel investors, etc., if you're not trying to be all buzzwordy and how you're going to triple, your revenues in 24 months, whatever it is, if you are starting with nothing and you're starting from zero, I think anything that you have as a success will feel rewarding. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So that's sort of Colin says yes, the egg. That's biology. Thank you. So I think that's a roundabout answer to say that I don't know what the potential scale of comics reading in India is, but I don't think anyone does. And I think one way of finding out is by doing things specifically, particularly around that. It's something I'm extremely interested in. It's something that I really think people want. And as I was saying in my other video, is that what I've enjoyed about the job that I've left, what I really enjoyed about that job were all the collaborative aspects of working with smart people, of working with like-minded people, people you might disagree with at times, but you're aligned to the same goals and the same results, and that is something that I think is what I want to do more of. I want to collaborate with like-minded people, smart people. And Ashwita is one of the smartest people I know, so that's what I'm starting with. But put people together and then bring their relative expertises together in order to answer these kind of questions. That's the plan. How many people will want to read your book is the answer. Yes. So there are different parts of that. There's how many people know about your book, how many people are interested in your book, and was your book good enough to hold their attention? What I think everyone wants is they want something that will be recommended by other people, not something you have to pay for or you have to push for. Although, I mean, of course, advertising, etc., is necessary, but the word of mouth and the sort of love of the reader, I think, is the trick. Is that because we all know this? I mean, on this channel, for example, that's a perfect thing that we can establish for ourselves, is that we like recommendations. We trust when people say that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. That's why we watch videos online. That's why we discuss on Discord. That's why we post our opinions and read other people's opinions on Reddit, etc. So that thing comes from having great stories. That great stories comes from giving people a certain kind of oxygen and developing. I keep talking about this development, is that I think when it comes to things like writing, people think it's easy because everyone knows how to read and write. And, you wouldn't treat it that same way if it was a musical instrument, playing a musical instrument, or even singing, any of the other arts, painting. You would think that, yes, that needs to be studied, the masters need to be studied, you need to understand about the form, you need to understand these things. When it comes to writing, people feel that you're somehow just lightning strikes you and genius is created. And that's really not the way it works. It's writing is rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. It's iterative. And that's the kind of, and when I say writing, I mean, I think I said this some time ago as well, drawing is a form of writing. When it comes to comics, when I say writing in comics, I'm not talking only about the script or only about the words. All of it is a form, or you could take writing to be a form of drawing. Tomato says that, Tomato, I get it. Some people only read BD, Shudeep says. Tomato says, I got introduced to Western authors and comics only because of mangas I read. Absolutely. I think everyone starts somewhere. And even if you don't think about things as a stepping stone, even if someone wants to only read, I mean, that's their prerogative, first of all. But I do think that the biggest barrier is the form and the prejudice that people have against the form. You still have articles being written that comics aren't for kids anymore. And it's ridiculous. And it's like comics haven't been only for kids for decades at this point of time. But different parts of the world have different speeds of absorption. And I think because of the presence of the Marvel and DC movies, the Marvel and DC comics obviously have a certain visibility. And there might be an association that that's what comics are and only that, or those children's comics, or those educational comics, or those comics about historical figures that are supposed to instill you with national pride. Those are the only things that they can be. And that, I think, is just a question of availability. It's just a question of awareness. And that is only going to be fed by people doing more and more in it. Manga, because of the anime boom after COVID, manga was pretty underrated. Now, I mean, manga, I think, has been growing in leaps and bounds for many years. Is every year is another record-breaking year for manga that outsells what it did the previous years. So I don't think that. I think it's a question of availability. I think it's a question of distribution. They have become available in more places. They are available at affordable prices. And that, I think, has led to a greater and greater adoption. It's that physical copy selling. Because, when it comes to piracy and someone reads something online, there's really no way to quantify, what's more successful. Is it Iron Man, or is it the latest, volume of that manga story? Those things are unknown and we can speculate. But when you have physical copies sold, when you have dollars in revenue earned, those are things you can compare. And I definitely think that the fact that more and more volumes have become available at bookstores and in Amazon and things like that, that it's available to buy, has definitely contributed. So again, you've got, sort of circular thing. It's like one thing feeds into the other. You create that market by making things available, by putting things in front of people. So I think that's sort of the plan announcement. That's the sort of thing of what we're going to be doing. So how does Patreon and YouTube memberships work into all of this? As I was saying before, part of it is just making sure that this channel has its own support and its own reason. In my head, I can't slack off because here's a whole bunch of people who are now depending on you and sending you money, which is ridiculous, but it's happening already. I mean, we already have more than 30 patrons and YouTube members, and the tiers that I've created over there, well, I got some advice from some people. But they were really aligned to this idea of collaboration. What I'd love is to have the people who are supporting this channel on Patreon, what I'd love for them to be able to do is not just vote in polls, because I have a long list of videos that I'm going to be polling people on from the polling tiers, where they get to vote on which one they want the next videos to be. Now, what this means is it's still the videos I want to make, but I want to make many videos. So, for example, I want to make a video on Palookaville and Seth. I want to make a video on Optic Nerve and Adrian Tomina. I want to make a video on the comics of Rutu Modan. I want to make a video on the comics of Jiro Taniguchi. I want to make a top 10 Superman comics video. Actually, I am making a top 10 Superman video. That should be my next video. Those were the two videos that I had planned. The one that's going to launch today after this live stream, and the one for next week, hopefully. But I have a top 10 anthropomorphic comics video that I want to make. There are certain things I want to discuss on live streams. There are certain comparisons and certain editions I want to talk about when it comes to my old favorites. There are a couple of artist editions, one of Bone and one of Gru that I've never talked about, that I want to make videos of. And there is a studio edition of Prince Valiant that I got some years ago now that I would love to make a video on. And this is just off the top of my head. What I want is people to be able to vote on them. Then there is another tier at a higher level in which people can suggest videos that I'll just throw into that list so that everybody can vote on them. And at the topmost tier, there is the shot calling producer type of video where one video in a year and 12 months of subscription gets like, that's the video you're going to make on that book, etc. And I just have to do it. So that's it's a sort of fun way of looking at how the content again how the content of this channel is going to be affected by the people who want to support it. But if you can't sign on to Patreon or YouTube memberships, that's absolutely fine. It's just a group of people who are making sure that I keep doing this for all of the things. So as I said in my previous video, I'm not going to be taking anything that I would have made for the channel and putting it behind the thing for patrons only and members. That's just extra stuff. There's also extra stuff that I could be talking about, not just production, but other things that sometimes catch my interest: movies, video games, board games, poker. Who knows? It's just whatever isn't really YouTube friendly. Although that sounds shady, whatever isn't for that purpose of only that comics channel on YouTube, those are things that I can have over there. So there's a way of sharing that as well. But even if you're not on there, just watching these videos, hitting the like button. I always forget to ask people to hit the like button because I always think it's YouTube. People know what they're doing, and people are like, no, call to actions. You ask people to hit like. You say, well, there are 42 people watching right now, and I can only see 7 likes. What's going on? Things like that. Those are things that help the channel find new viewers and get put in front of other people. After that, it's still my job to hold their attention. But it's that numbers game. Is if you get in front of 10,000 people, by my ratio, I might get like 10 subscribers who are really into the thing. Also hit the notifications bell. And this is something I really found out the hard way. Is I follow certain channels, and I was wondering why I haven't seen any videos from them lately. And then I went to their channel and I saw that they did have videos, and my notifications were turned to some or something like that. And I don't know why that wouldn't count a new video upload. So hitting that bell until it says all notifications is what I've done for those particular channels whose community posts I don't want to miss, whose live stream notifications I want to get half an hour ahead of time, which is something I found out today, is because Ashwita got a notification telling her this live stream was starting in 29 minutes because she has all her notifications turned on. So there you go. Those are the things that people do, and watching my videos, interacting, leaving comments, etc. All of this feeds, the hungry algorithm, and makes the algorithm think that, oh, this is a channel and these are videos worth putting in front of other people. At the same time, I always see that there are certain videos of mine that do quite well, again, from a very relative point of view. And then there are some other ones that don't do that well. But that doesn't mean, and sometimes the ones that don't do that well are the ones that I'm proudest of. And I really thought I tried something different and did something unique. And then I'm like, but having that group of patrons and members means that I get to tell them, it's like, this one is as special as that other. This one is even more special, and make sure that a core group of people at least aren't missing what it is that I want to put out there in front of them. So that's what the situation is right now. I thank everyone who has joined on Patreon and club memberships. I thank everyone who sent me super thanks. I didn't even know that was a thing, but people who put super thanks on that, on my previous video. The channel is and has been monetized, but I don't think about advertising as a thing. I mean, like, it's another way of keeping score, but it's really the comments, it's really the interactions that give me a true sense of I don't want to reach a million people necessarily. I just want to reach those 10,000 people who are as passionate and as into the comics and the comics medium and finding new comics and finding new creators. And that's where I think that the new chapter of For the Love of Comics, and maybe that's the name of the company as well, I think that's where is leading, is that sort of the true sense of community, as well as this idea of make something, put something out into the world that you would like to see in the world, that you would want to read, that you would want to buy as a present for your friends. That's the kind of approach that I think the channel and the upcoming publishing ventures will have in common. So I'm going to take one look through the comments, but thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Immediately after this, I will be premiering my day 14 video. And as I was saying right at the beginning of this live stream, it's one that I worked on a little differently. I had a little bit more time, so I'd love to know what you think of it and how it ended up. So leave me comments over there. There are at least 3 books by Modan. Yes, I was thinking about 4 books, but I mean, I could do a video on just one book of Ritu Modan's. I really love her work. Setting notifications to all. Yes, thank you, Colin. This is it's a thing that I had somehow just missed. I don't know how I didn't know that. I thought hitting the bell was enough, but you've got to hit it like a couple of times until it becomes all white. Anyway, what is an EBF? Well, an EBF, Nihal, is something that a couple of people have given me as a nickname, and I'll leave it to them to tell you what it stands for. I think it's erudite bearded friend, which, I love the word erudite, but what I like most about that is the word friend. So there's Ashwita saying, we're very excited about publishing comics that are excellent, both in terms of writing and art, and can appeal to a wide audience. There you go. Now, she does in one sentence what I've been rambling on about for about an hour. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining this live stream. Enjoy the video coming up next, and for the rest of this season, what I refer to as season 2 of For the Love of Comics, next 5.5 years. All right, so I will talk to all of you very soon. Let me see if I can sign off over here. I don't know how long the delay is. Have a good night. Have a nice Sunday. Have a great week ahead of you. And I'll talk to you in the very next video. Good night.